Hello, welcome to Grief on a Tuesday night. This is the fourth one. Wow. I've actually had a few downloads of the other three, which I find quite astounding personally. But there you go. It's brilliant to know that some people are listening. So I was going to call this one Plateaus and Downs because I do feel, and again, I'm just speaking for me personally, but I wouldn't even call it ups and downs because there aren't really any ups right now and haven't been for some time, obviously. But they're just days that you get by. There are days that you maybe don't have any problems or issues and you get through them. But I found that when I do have problems, as I probably said in the first one, with a lot of the companies I was dealing with, which thankfully seems to be over now. I did find that I've literally got zero patience. If it could be in the negative, it would be because I just haven't got the patience for people like that. And when things go wrong, I've not got I don't feel I've got the time to excuse me, to put it right. And I just sort of get angry straight away about it. I basically had a trip to Paris booked a long time ago because at the time it seemed like we were fairly sort of certain that we would be able to get tickets. And then a combination of, it started with Paris Saint-Germain and not offering the 5% of tickets they're supposed to by the UEFA rules. And then, even then, we still had a decent chance. Villa giving away, it was called a chunk by a local journalist for the Birmingham Mail, a chunk of tickets away. And these sort of right at the death before people were leaving on the Fridays and Saturdays and whatever, started to come back. We tried and we couldn't get any. And for me, I've been away probably 12, 13 times, I guess, into Europe now for away games, five a while ago and 7 with my boy. And the thing is that it revolves around the football, and you go and see these places and you experience them and the cultures and everything else. But there's always that central point of the football as to why you're going. And we were absolutely gutted to miss out on this one. There was potentially a chance of paying a lot of money to go and sit with the Paris fans, but there was a lot of risk involved in that. You couldn't be seen as a neutral, when they ask for IDs and you're going to present like a British passport or something like that. They're obviously going to think you're an away fan, and it was they were talking hundreds and hundreds of euros per ticket. So we just decided against it in the end. But Paris is obviously for people who've gone, and probably for people who've never been. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. The buildings, architecture, everything about it. Obviously, Paris is absolutely massive. We were sort of going around on the metro system, and it was really sort of easy to navigate, sort of changing lines, hopping on and off, and it was super easy to get about and see all the things that that you want to see. But I always had that underlying feeling of we're not going to the football here at all. We're just having a few days in Paris, and we're going to be, the nearest we're going to get to it is being in a pub and watching it, which isn't why for me I wanted to go. Now, I know that I've got to be honest. I was an absolute miserable fucker for a lot of the time. Not all the time, but for a lot of it. And it was very, very difficult. It's no excuses, but I had some massive pain in my feet, and especially my right foot. And so with all the walking that you do, it was just becoming unbearable. I had it wrapped up, sprayed, all sorts, but it was so painful. And it just got more and more sort of irritating. And then, like I say, in a beautiful place, the weather was fantastic. Probably the only bad timing, and nothing we could do about it. But it seemed like the kids were off, or they definitely were. The kids were off. There were kids everywhere, and you go to places like the Eiffel Tower. I know it's a tourist trap, obviously, but the queues were massive, and you feel like, for my lads, that you've got to go. You've got to go up there. You've got to get in the old elevator and at least go up. And then they closed off the top floor because there were too many people, and we probably queued for about an hour just to get the tickets to sort of get in and queue for the elevator. The girl behind the counter, literally just sort of said one adult and one, I think they just called it a youth. It was like 12 to 24 years, and she sort of just said card and just threw the tickets at us. She obviously didn't want to be there as much as me. And yeah, I don't know, without sounding completely miserable. I mean, obviously, it's the way of things now. Everybody's got a phone, everyone's got a camera, video, whatever. But everybody, phones were just everywhere. Everyone was trying to get that perfect fucking photo where they got their hands on the side of the tower, or they're doing a heart shape in front of it, or they're jumping up. And we were, we'd been up there going around each side and just taking a couple of videos and some photos and whatever else. So, a little bit hypocritical. We're doing the same thing, but a lot of these people were doing these things over and over again. And, people stood there sucking in the cheekbones with a selfie stick and waiting for it to get that absolutely perfect picture, and we were over one side, and a guy had already spoken to someone else. I'd just sort of heard him because we were just sort of looking, checking out the views, and a guy had moved someone away because he wanted to take a photo. And then he came up to me and he basically just said, can you move? I want to take a photo. And we were just sort of, and I sort of moved over a little bit for him, and he said, no more. God. And in the end, I'd had enough by then. I said, come on. And I said, mate, just fuck off. I couldn't believe that he was so fucking self-involved and entitled that he was moving people out of the way where they were just stood looking at the view so he could get his perfect fucking photo. So we came back from that. And yeah, I know, as I say before, I think a combination of things put me in a very sort of irritable, miserable mood, and it wasn't the place to be doing that. We went to see the Champs-Elysees and one or two of the other sort of standard places. I wanted to see the Bataclan, and that was shut. I was sort of hoping we could go in. There might be a little shop inside or something like that, but it was all shut up. It was about 1 p.m. And then we found this little cafe just down the road from there, and just for a brief moment, things sort of picked up. There was a really nice owner there, this woman, and we'd literally just been in and bought a couple of drinks, and we were sat outside at a table. And when we left, I was just talking to her, and she was asking me what I thought of Paris, and I said, oh, it's really nice. And I said, oh, we'd come over for the football, and she went, oh yeah, that's tonight. And I said, yeah, we didn't get tickets, unfortunately. But and then she said, oh well, I know my friend is the owner of a restaurant right outside the ground. I'll have a word with her and see what she can do about getting some tickets. I was like, oh my word. And but to cut a long story short, she couldn't get hold of her. She said, oh, she's working, I'm really sorry, I won't be able to get hold of her. And I said, look, just thanks for trying. It was more than a lot of people did for us, to be honest, including our own ticket office people. And she was really nice. I thought, fair play for trying. It was really, really nice of her. And a bit later on, we went to the Army Museum. By which time I was really struggling walking about, and I probably spent at least a third of the time sat down while he went around and checked everything out. Obviously, he loves all the history stuff, and I do. I've got more and more into it. It's really interesting, but it's one of those places where you just walk for miles. It was humongous, just the most massive place. Really, really impressive. The building was amazing. The work they must do just to keep the place clean must be astronomical. It was amazing place. but I spent probably a third of it sort of sat down while he walked about, because I was just sort of struggling so much. And again, it was just that underlying thing amongst all of it that there wasn't going to be any football at all. And I know it shouldn't have been, we knew before we went, and I knew it shouldn't have been the be all and end all, but that's why you go to these places. We wouldn't have been anywhere near Paris if we hadn't have drawn them in the competition. So we ended up at a bar. It was called the Frog and Rosbeef. And we'd been out a day before and just had something to eat and a couple of drinks, and asked the guy, and he said, "Yeah, we'll be showing the game." And we noticed a few of the seats were reserved, and there was a few of our fans in the day before, and we thought, well, we'll have a few. And as it turned out, we got to kick-off time and realised that everybody bar us two in this sort of loud, raucous bar was supporting Paris Saint-Germain. And the funny thing was, we scored first, sort of against the run of playing, quite unexpectedly, because they're a superb, strong side. We're really mixing at the top table now, playing sides like this, and we scored first. And I couldn't help it; just jumped off my stool and shouted, "Fucking get in!" at the screen, and everyone was good. Everyone around us was good. There was no grief, and obviously they got their own back as the game went on, but they weren't. They weren't sort of having a sort of riposte at me or the boy or anything like that. They were just celebrating, and so it was. Despite the result, it was it was a nice place to be, and at least I guess we'd seen the match, and then we got back to the sort of Gare du Nord area where we were staying. Quite a few of our fans, probably it looked like about 100, maybe 150, been up that way watching it. And we were talking to a few of them, and we got back to the hotel. That was another thing. We had a room which was right on the side of the railway tracks, on the Gare du Nord lines. So the trains obviously ran up till probably midnight, and started again at sort of 5. But when the really sort of loud, the big trains went by, and the goods trains or whatever, it was unbearable. There was no way you were going to sleep. And on the second night, it sounded like basically someone was knocking on doors, and it went on for about 45 minutes. It was about 3:45 in the morning, and when I mentioned it downstairs, thinking, maybe someone had come in late, maybe they could identify what it was, but apparently it was just people who work on the trains, and it's sort of linked to the side of the hotel, and they basically said it's nothing to do with us. And so, it was one of those where it was one of those hotels. It was an Ibis Styles, which anywhere else would be, a reasonable sort of hotel. This was, I'd probably say, like a 2 out of 10, a 3 out of 10, something like that. So there were a lot of things that just never got going. And the last day we had quite a bit of time to kill because we had a night flight, and that seemed to go better. Actually, we found a nice restaurant, and we were in there for a couple of hours while we had something to eat, and then we just sat out in the sun, and we went to a place called Belushi's where the football had been on the night before, so we were in there for a while, and then just got ourselves over. The Gare du Nord's so busy all the time; it's just absolutely just rammed with people. So we sort of headed over a bit early towards the airport for our flight. But I think something that got mentioned in the group therapy sessions. A guy mentioned, and he was so right. And he said, I look back and I go back 6 months or a bit longer, and I don't recognise myself. And I feel I'm getting really like that. It was a really good point, and something that sort of, really, really resonated with me. And I just think, I can put it down and say I was a right miserable fucker, to be honest. Like I say, not all the time, but I could have done things a lot better, and I feel really shit that I did it. And like I say, maybe underpinned by the whole thing about you're not going to the game, which is why you normally go to these places for sort of short 2 or 3 day trips. But yeah, I felt like it was horrible, and it was unfair on my boy. Um, and yeah, I don't know what I could do apart from apologise, because yeah, I thought I was pretty. I must have been pretty unbearable at times, just moaning. I got sick of the sound of my own voice. Probably told myself to shut up a good 5 or 6 times, and um, yeah, like I say, it wasn't all the time, but it was enough that you know I feel like I should have done a lot better. But I do feel like it was, just small things going wrong, and there's just, I'm losing it straight away. There's no patience involved, or a thought of doing something differently, or trying something else, or um, it's almost like an instant meltdown. And I know that's not very good. Just before on the before we went on the Friday, we went to see the Blue Tones live, sort of indie pop, indie guitar band, sort of mid 90s, early 2000s, probably their most sort of popular time. And quite by chance, we ended up in the front row, totally by luck, but literally up against the rail. And they were great. They were really, really good. So I suppose that was an up. I suppose the day had been average, but the night was a rare sort of up, because they were really, really good. And we got another set list at the end, so we've got 5 now, which is pretty amazing. We've got a star set. We've got Rise Against, Frank Turner, and this one, and there's one I've forgotten as well. But yeah, they were superb. They were absolutely brilliant. And see it all close up a minute. Just 4 guys, tight band, no gimmicks, no frills, no sound effects, no cheating, extra little musical things coming out, whatever. They were just 4 guys in a really tight band, and they were excellent. They were really, really good. So yeah, there we are. Sort of on a bit of a mega downer at the moment. And somehow I've got to get at the back end of it, and see what happens. So as there was a bit of a sport thing attached there with music, and one of the reasons for going to the Bataclan as well was, hopefully, if there'd have been anything on, like any sort of gig, no matter what band or style of music or whatever, I think we'd have gone. It would have been nice to have just seen it, but there just wasn't anything going on. So musically, a few songs at the moment. What have we got? So Starset have got one out called Dark Things, which is a little bit of a sort of departure from the stuff they've been releasing. They've been releasing singles now for months and months. This is the longest wait for an album. Starset are absolutely amazing to see live. I think we've seen them live about 5 times. Saw them in Bristol, so on a very sort of pretty small venue on a small stage, and their sort of show, their production is something else. It really is incredible. And it's just got better and better every time. And when we left, we actually said, I don't know how they topped that, quite frankly, because it was just something else. The music's obviously a massive part of it, but the show itself is, I can't even explain it. It's just so good. So yeah, they've got Dark Things. Immenence have got, I think, a rehashed album out. It's like an album with a few extra songs on. But they've got a song called God-Fearing Man that's absolutely fantastic. Loving that. Shine Down have got a song out, Dance Kid Dance, which has been out for a couple of weeks or so. I think that's probably the best thing they've done in quite some time. I'm a big fan of theirs, but sort of preferred the earlier stuff and the Sound of Madness stuff and whatever else. And the last couple of albums have been a bit for me. Okay, some decent things, but a bit meh for me. I really like this one. And Rise Against, new one. Again, Rise Against, saw them in February live. They're something else. They're brilliant live. They got a song called Prize Fighter. And I'm going to have to look this one up because Volbeat just released a new single from their album that's coming out in June. And I'd never be able to remember the name of the title of this. So this is their song that they've just released. It is called In the Barn of the Goat Giving Birth to Satan's Spawn in a Dying World of Doom. So fair play. If you can remember that without looking it up, or you shout that out at a gig saying, "Come on, play this." Fair dues to you. So yeah, I think that's about it for now. So again, a bit like last time, there's nothing really sort of not ending's not the right word, but happy ending wise, or everything's rosy in the garden and everything else, because it really isn't. And it's just a case of just getting through days, and maybe trying to not be as down when certain things sort of go wrong, or there are issues or whatever. Yeah, that's something I've got to work on myself. That's really just down to me, and that's my problem that I have to sort out. But we'll see. So yeah, that's it for now. I'll probably try and I've got an idea of what little sort of intro music I can put on at the start. I think the ones I did on the third one, I got right by the sound of it at the beginning and the end. I've got an idea of what I want to put on at the start, because it was slightly Paris related, and then I'll try and maybe think of something at the end as well. So there we go. Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and hopefully I'll be back with another one soon. All the best. Bye.